guys, my name's Landon. Today I'm bringing you guys another video. Today we are talking about competitive Call of Duty, its future, and where it could be going later on in the years of Black Ops 3 and whatnot. So this is strictly based on Black Ops 3. Will competitive Call of Duty be switching over to a new console after Advanced Warfare is over? So basically, if you guys missed it, the Electronic Entertainment Expo, aka E3, is basically the most craziest, one of the most craziest, besides like Gamescom and whatnot, one of the most craziest places to platform and show your games that are coming out. So like basically like Sony, Microsoft, all these massive companies, just naming those two in general, really release all their games. They release all their titles, at least most of them. Most of them, go to Gamescom and whatnot. But they release all of them. They release all their titles, when they're coming out, to what system they're going to be on, and primarily what's going to happen. So just if you guys didn't know that, that's what's basically what I was watching and tweeting about throughout the entire week. Alright, so I'm going to kind of lay how this works in a sense. So if you guys didn't know, basically Microsoft and Call of Duty in the past have had a very strong deal with each other. Deal or contract, meaning that DLC, all kinds of interesting stuff. The game is made basically for the Xbox One. So if you guys are the Xbox, Microsoft's console, if you go back all the way to Black Ops 1, for instance, I believe that was made primarily on the Xbox, but we'll talk about what happened with competitive in that in a sense. So basically every Call of Duty, in a sense, has been made primarily for the Xbox. Now, a lot of people won't talk about that. They won't mention that. How Call of Duty works is that it is made primarily for the console it's partnered with. So, in the past, Call of Duty is primarily made on the Xbox. So they make it for the Xbox. Now, after that's over, they port it over to the PlayStation. They port it over to the Wii. They port it over to whatever console it comes out for. So, in a way, the PlayStation is getting a reskin of an Xbox One game or an Xbox game in a sense. So like you're not actually getting the real copy. That's why Xbox Call of Duty always feels a little bit better. I've noticed that. I've been playing Xbox Call of Duty, or PlayStation Call of Duty for a very long time. I know the difference between the two. I'm not like, I primarily play this one, I primarily play that one, but still. Along with that, along with the contract, you also get DLC, downloadable content early. You get all of these perks of being, a partnership or having that contract with Call of Duty. You get basically everything, in a sense, before everyone else does. And obviously competitive. Speaking on competitive, this is what the video is basically about, talking about competitive. Competitive's always been on the Xbox, but back in Black Ops 1, I believe, when we played on PS3, it was on PS3 for a long time. Then I believe the PSN servers went down. I don't know if you guys remember that or not. The PSN servers went down for like 3 or 4 months, which was absolutely terrible. I cannot even stress how terrible that was. But anyway, then they switched over to the Xbox servers because you can't play online and whatnot. LAN doesn't really matter a whole lot for. But that's when they switched over to the 360. Since then, they've non-stop played on the Xbox. We've seen in Ghost and Advanced Warfare we played on the Xbox One. However, that could change. Now keep in mind, this is not definite. That's why there's a question mark. Could competitive Call of Duty be switching over to the PS4? Well, Landon, why did you mention E3? And that's a dumb question. I'm not even going to act like you guys aren't asking that question. Anyway, how this is working is that on E3, during Microsoft's basically presentation, going back to E3 talk, they did not announce any Call of Duty title. They did not even utter the word Call of Duty. They didn't even mention, their partnership with Black Ops 3 coming out. And at E3, every single year, they always announce their title. Near the end, they always announce Call of Duty. And when we were watching the Microsoft conference, everyone was like waiting for it. They're like, come on, you gotta say it, Call of Duty, come on. And they didn't announce it. So we wait a little bit. We wait till Sony's press conference. If you guys don't know, Sony is basically the PS4. They make the PS4 and whatnot, in case you guys didn't know. So we wait for Sony's conference. Sony announces all kinds of different stuff, and we get toward basically near the end. And Mark Lamia comes out, the studio head for Treyarch, and he basically announces that Call of Duty is now going to be on the PS4 as a primary console. A lot of people were asking me, they're like, Landon, is it going to only be on the PS4? No. Call of Duty will never just be on one specific console, at least for not a very long time. Call of Duty is one of the most biggest grossing titles series of all time in video games. So basically, them putting that on the PS4 is a very, very big deal. A lot of people are asking me, they're like, you know what? Can competitive just be on the Xbox One while a main primary console is on the PS4? And if you guys didn't really realize this, now that PS4 has a major deal with Call of Duty, everything is basically switched over. So DLC is coming to, the PS4 early. So if you guys are worried about getting your DLC a month early, you guys switch over to the PS4 if you guys are interested in that. So basically, like, how everything works in Xbox One for right now with Call of Duty is going to be switched over in a sense. But what does that mean for the competitive scene, Landon? Well, now MLG is kind of the middleman. They're in the middle. They're kind of like that dividing factor. Like, here is, the consoles. Here's like the main creators. Here's Call of Duty, and MLG is kind of off to the side. So they're not really the middleman, but they're like kind of off to the side. They don't really necessarily decide what happens to the consoles. They decide what happens to competitive. So I was having a lot of people tweeting me. They're like, you know what, Landon, competitive doesn't have to be on the PS4. Xbox One, we can play competitive on that, and PS4 will just scale the DLC early. Call of Duty will work with him consistently. To me, that's not going to work at all. That, to me, is just not a thing in my mind where I'm thinking about that. I'm like, that's going to work perfectly. There's no problem with that. And we actually had Neslo on the sticks last week, and we were talking to him, and he was like, if there is a $1 million tournament, which is not confirmed, but normally if you're the primary console, you make a Call of Duty Championships, a World Championships. That's the real only thing that Microsoft or Xbox really gave us. They gave us a $1 million tournament, which is amazing. Don't get me wrong, $1 million is great, but they basically handed over to MLG for the last couple of years and said, hey, take care of it. And now since PlayStation bought them out, it's kind of a deciding factor. Will PlayStation have a $1 million tournament? And if they were to, and say Xbox One is still the primary console of MLG events, of competitive Call of Duty events, and this is what Neslo said. Neslo was like, there is no reason for me to play tournaments, 20Ks, 25Ks, 30Ks on the Xbox One to later switch over to a $1 million tournament in the middle of the season, which is going to be on a separate console. That is a $1 million prize pool. There is no reason at all for me to play on that when I have an opportunity. If I place top 8, that's still enough for me to make up what I would have played on. So, to me, there only is one way to work this out, and that is for competitive to switch to the PS4. Is that confirmed, Landon? No, it is not confirmed at all. I've heard a lot of pro players and a lot of people asking, like, you know what, how is that going to work for pro players? How is that going to work for, AMs or, younger players and whatnot who can't afford it? Like I said, this game isn't even, we just passed the halfway mark, so you have 5 or 6 months to come up with, what, $400, $500, which is a lot. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that that's not a lot of money, because it is. We all have different ranges of what money we can spend. Sometimes, for some people, that's affordable. For some, and for a lot, it's not. You can't just pull out of my pocket, oh, here's $500, here you go. That's not super easy, but at least you have 5 months to do it. If there was ever a time to switch over to a different console for a Call of Duty, it would probably be this one, because Treyarch, obviously, they've done great stuff for us in the past. In Black Ops 2, it was the best competitive game that we've ever had. It exceeded our expectations. It grew us more than any other Call of Duty could or had at the time. For most people, that's when they found the competitive Call of Duty scene. And like I said, if there was ever a time to switch over to a different console, it would probably be the time that it's going to be one of the better games that we've had. We have 3 different developers now. Treyarch being one of my favorites. We have Infinity Ward and also Sledgehammer now. But this is a big deal. This is a major topic to be talking about. Will competitive be switching over to PS4? Landon, give it to me straight. Will it be switching in your opinion? Yes, I think it will be. I think that competitive Call of Duty will now be switching over to the PS4. Like I said, that is not confirmed. I hate when people always take my things out of context. This is not confirmed. This is just, will it happen? I've seen a bunch of people tweeting. They're like, Xbox or Riot, hashtag Xbox, or we Riot retweet for Xbox to say as the main competitive console fave if we want to switch to the PS4. And obviously the retweets are dominating, to say the least. But looking at it from previous, like looking back at the history from what we've had with Xbox or Microsoft as a whole, they haven't given us much. They have not, they've not been like, oh, competitive, yeah, we'll be helping you guys out, no problem. We got you guys. Our best intentions are for you guys. Obviously, they're not going to say that, but they never really gave us anything to go off of. They didn't help us out with DLCs. They didn't help us out with, making the game competitive. And especially having 3 different developers now for Call of Duty is very difficult, to mention and talk to every single developer in a different way. You have a different developer every single year in a way. It's a 3-year cycle in a sense. And I think Treyarch will kind of mend that way for us if we do. Treyarch kind of mends that way to Call of Duty, and they kind of help us in a sense. And I think maybe Sony or PS4 could really help us. PlayStation could realize and say, we got a good thing going here. We got competitive Call of Duty. We got competitive this. We got competitive that. We can really help this thing grow and overall help Call of Duty, which gives them more money. You have a $1 million tournament. You have a $2 million tournament. Maybe they even bump it up to $5 million. Who knows what could happen? The endless possibilities that could happen with us switching to another console. The only problem is just getting these guys new controllers, getting them new scuffs, getting them new that, getting them new this and that and whatnot. but still, having competitive Call of Duty on the PS4 to me would not be a bad thing. I know there's like I said, there's certain things that come with it. There's going to be a big transition period. I've heard a lot of people say this is going to be, it's not going to be that hard of a transition. And we did this back in Black Ops 1. It wasn't that difficult. Back in Black Ops 1, it was not a big deal to switch over. I mean, it was a big deal, but we did not have a fraction of the same amount of fans that we did or we do now. You know, I remember kind of that transition a little bit. Back then, I was a little bit fuzzy in the competitive scene. I didn't watch it as much, obviously, as I do now. Like, from then to there, it's like, you know, crazy how much more I paid attention to it. But from what I remember, it wasn't a major deal, but now it's a much bigger deal because of the audience we have, the amount of players that want to become pros, the young players that are getting noticed. We have to switch over to a completely different controller as well. That's going to be a big deal. That's a big factor. That's probably one of the biggest factors we have, switching over. As far as the PS4 goes for LAN settings and whatnot, it's way better. The hardware is way better. That's just a known fact. You guys can't get that wrong. Like, it's not like, oh, well, you don't know that for sure. It's in the specs. Like, it's actually true. As far as LAN settings go, it's actually how they're supposed to be. The Xbox One still involves the internet connection to be used for LAN. You can make custom gamer tags. The PS4 is just a lot smoother overall. But there's a lot of opportunities that could, I think, come from the PS4. It is kind of hard to switch over to a different console, but at least you have time. At least you have time if it does happen. It's not necessarily going to happen, but as far as I go, as far as I want, and as far as I think that it would work out, I think I would choose the PS4 if I'm MLG, if I'm these big game companies, if I'm UMG, if I'm AEL, if I'm any of these guys who do MLG events, or competitive Call of Duty events, excuse me. I would personally choose the PS4 over just about everything else. And I think everyone will kind of just fall in MLG's line. They'll be like, yes, here we go, we'll choose that one as well. So guys, make sure to put down in the comments your guys' feelings. I want to know, do you guys think that the transition to PS4 would actually be helpful, or do you guys want to stay on the Xbox One? Don't try to get any fights. We're all here. We're all, you know, we're all like a family in a sense. You know, we want the best for competitive Call of Duty. That's all we want. There's nothing wrong with creative discussion, but don't like argue in the comments or anything like that. So if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like. It always does help me out. If you guys want to know anything else, make sure to leave it down in the comments. I always read your guys' comments all the time, so keep that in mind. We're getting close to 2,000 subscribers. Once we get there, man, we're doing a setup video, so keep that in the back of your mind as well. If you guys would like to subscribe, it always does help me out. So guys, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I will see you guys later. Have a great day. Don't worry about the transition. It'll all be alright, and I'll see you guys later. Peace out.